All right, we're live. We're having some difficulties today, but we're live. So let's see how well we are here today. Let's see how well we can get this thing to roll. I hope it's coming through right, but looks like we had some technical difficulties at the beginning. So we're excited to be here with you today. Let me just make sure I got all my housekeeping done so I can get you rolling. Today, we're going to talk some more about decision making because over the past few weeks, we really got this thing rolling. We're doing the book, and these videos are going to be linkable in the book. So you're not just going to get the book, you're also going to get some video to help you to be that superstar that you're looking to be. I'm excited because, like every Friday, we're here, and every Friday, we're finding ways to help you to be even more effective in everything you do. And, we do a lot of work on sales, and decision making is a big part of sales. And salespeople are really pretty good at making decisions because I know you all are out there and you have to be quick. And many times you have to be quicker than most people because you're a salesperson. I'm trying to get all the light balanced here. And I'm not sure why we're having a problem with that lighting today. We've been using the same lighting now for a few weeks and it worked very effectively. I don't know why I'm getting that bounce on my head. It must be getting that brightness, right? Oh, I got some bad brightness on my head from the video, but that's not really coming in the way we want. So let's see if we can spin it. And we'll do the best we can, right? So every Friday we're here with a new video to try to help you in becoming more and more effective at everything you do. I'm excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here and always excited to work with you all in bringing you the tools that you need to run your business more effectively and to make more money, right? And to create that success that we're looking for. And today's topic is really about making decisions. And even if you have it, you think you have it all together, you make the decision and bango, you're wrong anyway. And people are like, oh man, how could this be? I shouldn't have made the decision. Wrong. You made the decision. You made it based on knowing everything you needed to know. And now guess what? You just got to make another one to fix whatever the situation is. It happens. And we're going to talk about those three pieces today, conviction, time, and impact, and how you could still be wrong. As a pickup on last week, we went through the 7 keys, and this just kind of stuck out at me, and I really wanted to spend some time talking about it because I think it's so critical that everyone out there understand that, I remember making many decisions and being wrong in both my career and in my life and in my business. And there's just times you think you know it all. You think you have everything the right way. I can remember leaving a business venture with a partner, and I had to get out. I just felt I had to get out, and there's nothing anybody could have told me, and I made the decision to leave. And years later, I say, that probably wasn't the right decision for me at that time, but it was because it's what I did, and I had to live with it, and I moved forward. So just remember this. You do the best you can with what you have. You make the decision, and great leaders make more mistakes. I tell you, if you're working on being a great leader out there, you're going to make mistakes. And I'd rather have you make a few mistakes and become a superstar than to stand back and not make any decisions. And you know how many people are always sitting there unable to make a decision, and it just drives us crazy, as we've talked about before. Often when you make a decision, you could be wrong, but making the decision, you have taken what was a standstill and moved it forward. So make another decision to correct the issue and move on. And let's spend a few minutes there because I think this is what makes you a better decision maker, is when you understand that you're standing still. You're not moving. And by making a decision, you're going to start moving down the path to create success. If you don't move down that path, if you don't move it, make a decision. It's simple as that. Don't make a decision and you're going to stay right where you're at. Maybe, but you could get in some other problems at the same time. The greatest problem with the lack of making decisions is the lack of making the decision. Now think about that. The greatest problem with the lack of making decisions is just that. You don't make a decision. And I know some people out there probably say, Manny, you just keep beating on us about this. I do, because I see it all the time. I see it in organizations, and especially in a lot of the larger corporations. People are standing still, and people are stuck in the middle management, and they're never moving up because they're afraid. And this might be you. I mean, I might be talking to you, and you might not like it, but the point is, you got to learn to make a decision. And if you do, it's going to move you forward at an astronomical speed, and you're not even going to believe it. So let's look at 3 factors today. All right. First of all, you must have conviction about the decision you're making, and you got to be willing to stand up for it. Let's face it. I got to make a decision. I got to be willing to stand up and say what I need to say. Even, I can remember making decisions, say, we're going down this road because I know it's the right way. We're building a new office, and everyone was like, well, why don't we just stay where we're at? And I said, no, we got to pursue. We got to move in this direction, and we got to open in this highly fertile new region. And everybody else in the company was against it. But I made the move, and I made the company move, pushed it and sold it. And we moved down there. And that was what could have been the greatest piece of this company. There was a lot of other issues that got in the way. But the point was, we started to open up into bigger and bigger companies because I knew we needed to do it. And I had that conviction that I was doing the right thing. It didn't mean that I wasn't listening and learning. And it didn't mean that if they had pushed a little harder, that it didn't mean that I wasn't going to listen. But I probably had more conviction, okay, that this was the right way to go. And I moved it forward. If you believe you're on the right track and you've looked at it, like in the decision that I'm talking about here, I looked at it. I knew the market. I knew the players. I knew what was going on. I knew we needed to go there. And, that's why I say decision making is a lot about being a salesman, because you have to be able to sell your decision a lot of times to the rest of the organization. And if you don't know how to sell, whether you're selling to external or internal, sales is sales. So when you make a decision, sometimes or all the time, you really got to be able to sell it. And if you feel this is the right way to go, and that's part of being a leader, that's why it's lonely at the top, right? We've talked about that before. That's why it's lonely at the top, because you got to make the decision and you got to say, this is the way we're going. And then you got to move your organization in that direction. Eventually, people will come around to your point if you made the right decision, right? If you made the wrong decision, eventually you're going to come around to their point. Point is, you're moving. And that's what we talk about time and time again about decision making. It moves you forward. And if you're wondering why you're standing still, why your career is standing still, why your life's standing still, why your business is standing still, it's probably because you're hesitating on making those decisions. I talked about the example in the article, if you can read it on the blog, but it talks about an example in there. We decided we're going to open a new office in Seattle next quarter. It took a lot of time, money, and energy. And because we're across the other side of the country, it's going to take a lot of travel. People are going to have to be put out. People are not happy about that stuff. But the market is so ripe in Seattle. We got to be there. And so we're making the move. Now, people don't like the decision. They don't want to do it. But guess what? If you're the leader in this situation, you know it's what we need to do. You've reviewed it. You've decided. So go forward. They'll come around to your decision. And that really is all about conviction. And I hope I've emphasized, many of you might be out there and you might let your conviction falter. You might not push it through. You might hesitate. I'm telling you today, do not hesitate. When you feel this is the right move, you got to get moving forward, because that's what's the problem with a lot of our country today. We know this is what we need to do, and we don't do it. So follow your conviction. Am I okay? Okay. I always got to check to make sure I'm on time, because I try to give you everything we can this week. Now, time's not always on your side. And this is the second piece that's so critical. And we talked about it somewhat last week, about that whole thing. It doesn't matter. Everybody gets the same amount of time. And I hope you got that last week. And I want to reemphasize it today. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are, how much money you have, how much success you have. You getting 24 hours tomorrow. I'm getting 24 hours tomorrow. That's it. Only thing that matters is, what am I going to do with my 24? And what are you going to do with your 24? When the time is up, I got to make a decision. And I don't really like to get forced into the last moment. So that other thing I'm going to teach you today is that you need to make the decision earlier than maybe you want to. And maybe, the deadline is midnight. I want that decision made by 6 p.m. Now, just think about that for a moment. I'm not going to spend, I already know what the decision is. And most times when we're in a situation and we already know this is what we're going to do, we already know this is how we're going to move, why do we hesitate and think about it? Why do we spend so much time in procrastination? And you'll see a lot of that in my books, especially the last one that I wrote, which we'll highlight a little bit today, which was, what's your problem? Why are you hesitating? Why aren't you moving forward? And people, and they just want to play too much. And I always ask in the book, what's your excuse? Why aren't you moving? Let me give you an example. The new quarter will start in 2 weeks. And this is a real problem that I see in a lot of places, and I've worked through a number of clients with this problem. And they're looking at their sales process. They're looking at their sales reps. And the numbers of the reps over the next 2 weeks don't look like these two reps are going to get any better. We warned them already. We talked to them the last 2 quarters, and they're still not on task. Now, time's up. Time's up. I mean, we gave them plenty of time to come up and play the game. We got to let them go. And there's such a hesitation there. And why is there such a hesitation there? Well, because there's a lot of other effects, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I don't like to lay anybody off. But remember this, you're in business for what? I mean, we can sugarcoat it all you want, but we're in business. We're all running a business, and we're in business to make money. Now, as a few of my friends always are trying to reinforce to me is, you don't, you live to work or you work to live. Which are you choosing? Well, I'm in business so I can work to live. I don't get up every morning and say, all I want to do is work. I say every morning, I want to get up, I want to do my work so I can enjoy it and do all the other things I love. Now, I love what I do, but it's important for you to understand that time's up. You got to make a decision. And so many people, when it comes to, I think Steve Jobs put it very well. And if you haven't read Steve's book, the autobiography on Steve Jobs, you need to read that book because it's probably one of the better books done in the last 20 years in the business community. And Steve had a real simple principle about A players. His organization, he wanted it all to be A players. And his principle was simple. A players only want to work with A players. Now, if you bring in a B player, first of all, the A player is not going to want to work with them. And second of all, most B players don't have the confidence and they're going to hire C players. And so all of a sudden your organization is going downhill. When it comes time to make the decision that, you set the expectations, and I'm a real firm believer in you got to set the expectations and you got to get people to understand what those expectations are. But when you set the expectations and it's time to make a decision, like in the example we're talking about here, you got 3 sales reps who haven't made the numbers. So at the end of the first quarter, you sat down and you said, look, we got to hit some numbers. This is what I'm going to expect for you over the next quarter. If you don't make these numbers, then next quarter we're going to have this conversation again, and you're going to be at the end of the road with 1 quarter to go. So they went out, they ran the quarter, and they still didn't make the numbers. Now they're coming back in, and it's really time to put them on the end. And I say, put them out there on the end of the pier. Look, you're either going to swim, you're either going to jump off and swim, or you're going to go back to the shore. And as long as, people have some hesitation, but if people know what the expectation is, and this again goes right along with the decision-making process, so many times people don't understand what the expectation is. Tell them, if you don't do this, then I have no choice. I'm going to have to let you go. And the story, everybody knows what's going on. And don't you hate it? I used to hate it when people didn't tell me. Tell me, if I don't do this, I'm fired. In the conversation, I know long before then that if I don't do that, I'm leaving. And people say, well, it kills morale. Well, they're not meeting the goals anyway. So remember Steve's thing about, and I also am a big believer, I like to have A-level players. But what I'm trying to tell you on the decision, now, could you still make the wrong decision? Again, even though this rep could, if you gave him another quarter, yeah, he could hit the numbers. But how do you balance that out? Let's look at the third point. You must be able to handle the impact of the decision. And it affects people's lives beyond your comfort zone. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, let's take a look. We're all human. Although sometimes, and I put this in the article, sometimes our teams might not think we're human. They might think we're a little crazy, right? I mean, as a leader, doesn't that happen to some of you out there? Like they say, how could you do this? How can you make that decision? Look, you're the leader, and it's time we stepped up as leaders in America today and understood a couple things. Number one is the buck stops right here. I'm the CEO, and that's it. The buck stops right here. And if I don't get some juice into this machine, I gotta really apologize here. Well, why my juice is running so low and I didn't plug this thing in. So I'm gonna keep talking while I fix this thing up so we can not fade out in the middle of. There we go. We're good. Sorry about that. I had to make a decision, right? I had to make a decision that if I don't plug this thing in, we're going to run out of juice. And what's going to happen then is the broadcast is going to go down the tubes. So we're plugged in. We're ready to go. But let's go back. Our teams might not think we're human. And as leaders, that's part of what you're going to deal with. Your teams are looking to you for guidance. And they may not always like what you're giving them. And they may not always agree with what you're giving them. But guess what? They respect you for being able to make decisions. I would rather, let's put it this way, and I think most of you probably agree, I would rather work for somebody who can make a decision and can get us rolling than someone who is weeks past needing to make a decision and we're still sitting around waiting for what's going on next. Hey, the game started. It's time to play. You see it in sports all the time. You see the great coaches. The great coaches know that it's time to make a change. The great coaches know it's time to stick with what we're doing right now and not make the change. The great coaches know what to do. Then you watch the other coaches, and these are the guys who almost win, almost do it, but they don't quite get there because they saw what happened and they thought, I'm not going to make the change. And everyone, including you, knows they should have made the change. It's logical, but they don't do it. Now, if they make the right decision, then they win. If they make the wrong decision, they lose. But the point is, why do people hesitate so much? You need to come up and just make the decision and move forward. And I hate to keep pushing it, but it's true. All right, so you get into some very hard decisions. And you get into decisions like we were talking about and one of the hardest things you're going to do as a leader, and I know many of you out there have had to do it already, is you got to let somebody go. Because it's not just the impact to your organization, and not just the impact to the salesperson, but it's the impact to their families when you lay somebody off. You cut off their compensation, or even in our situation when we're talking about we're opening across the country, now you're going to put people in a situation where that decision is going to make them be on the road more, be away from home. However, you got a responsibility to the company. So you have to make a decision and you have to be able to handle the impact. And as I said, it's not always great. In fact, many times it really sucks. And, that's just the way it goes. But as a leader, you got to do it. Now, compassion is important. But here's what's happened to so many leaders out there. They've let compassion drive them so far that they're not making a decision. And again, I've dealt with people in all kinds of businesses, and this is a situation. Their compassion keeps them from making a decision that this person has to go. And in sales, you see it all the time. They're keeping a salesperson. The salesperson's not delivering, and their compassion keeps them from firing them. And all of a sudden, their profits are going down. And especially in a small business, where it's so family oriented. First of all, so you don't really want to let people go. But second of all, everybody has to pull their weight or the organization's in trouble, and they're not pulling their weight, and the leader is not making a decision because compassion, which I'm very compassionate, but guess what? I've really set the expectations. The person knows what I expect. They're not producing it. There's no question. There's no question. And luckily, and a lot of times you get lucky because the person already leaves before you have to make that decision, but not always. Even when you do the right thing, think about it. Listen, learn. It might still be a wrong decision. And when you make a wrong decision, you have to be able to move on. If you could make the right decision every time, you'd be perfect. But you know what? Which which of us is perfect? None of us. And don't try to be perfect. Now, you may have been like I was a software developer and I figured my code was almost close to perfect. Now you become a leader and you say, I still got to keep that same precision, but it doesn't always work that way. You want to do the best you can. You want to lead your organization the best way you can, but you're still not always going to be right. Remember, not making decision is like my friend Joyce Meyer says, it's like sitting in a parked car and wondering why you're not going anywhere. To be a great leader, you must learn how to make decisions and make them, now get this, with less information. Again, I'm reiterating some of what we talked about last week, but with less information, with greater impact in less time. Here's what you got to remember. You've been put in a leadership position. If everyone could do it, everyone would be doing it. But everyone can't do it. Everyone can't lead. Everyone is not a leader. But you've been put in that position. It's your responsibility. Now get out there and do it. Start leading the organization the way you can. Start making those decisions and move on. Because decision making, even with conviction, time, and impact, you could still be wrong. That's today's lesson. I hope this helps you. I hope what we're doing here with decision making is helping you to learn that you're not alone. Every decision maker out there has to face those same roads that you face. Everybody out there who is running an organization, running teams, building teams, doing those things. Everyone out there that's doing those things has to take a moment and say, I don't know if I was right, or, geez, I messed up. But as a leader, that will happen. And you know, as my great mentor Nate Connicky always said, if you make a wrong decision, you make one to correct it. Are you going to make wrong decisions? If you're an effective leader, you're going to make wrong decisions. Is it sometimes going to get you in trouble? If you're an effective leader, yes, sometimes it's going to get you in trouble. You're going to make decisions. They're going to hurt people at times. They're going to help people at times. And what we hope is that you help people more than you hurt them. But that's part of being a leader. So let me close up with some housekeeping stuff. It's always great to have you here. You know, we're here every Friday, and we're here every Friday to, excuse me, we're here every Friday to bring you great information that will help you be a better leader. Now, we're looking for volunteers. Right? If you want to be on our team that helps put this new decision book together, you want to help us review some of the manuscript, you want to get a free copy when it's done, you want to help us in getting this out to people, then please send me an email saying, I want to be on part of the team, Manny. I think this is a great opportunity for people who need to make decisions to help us and to help yourself become a stronger and more effective decision maker. Every Friday we're here. Every Friday we're here with more information to help you run your business better. We have some great stuff coming up. Going to have some more announcements soon. The final point I'll say is, if you're somebody out there who's got a great product, a great service, a great something that you would like to teach, I want you to come on the show. I'm always looking for guests. I know you don't always want to listen to me as I teach, but I'm always looking for guests to join the show and work with us, and I'd love to have you here. So Send me an email if you're interested. Tell me what you do. Give me a hook to some of the stuff you're doing, and we'll get you on the show because I'd love to have you here. Hey, as my friend Bro Walk always concludes with, get out there and create a better world. This is Coach Manny saying thanks for being with me, and I'll see you next week.